It is down. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off number one Clemson.
Herbert's got it. Stiff arm again. Quarterback in the clear. Inside the 10. A hat-trick of touchdowns for Justin Herbert.
So, VT kind of had the biggest question mark about what QB was going to go first. It was either obviously Michael Vick or Tyrod Taylor. Logan Thomas does have quite a number of records, but I just don't think he had the same impact because obviously he didn't win a title, ACC title. And when I started looking at the numbers, I actually decided to go with Tyrod Taylor. While Michael Vick, obviously,
you're crazy.
I mean, it's just the. I mean,
Michael Vick Michael Vick is on the freaking thumbnail. Come on, man.
I know.
Mike Vick went to a national title. He was a Heisman candidate, and he's ranked as one of the top players, quarterbacks in college football history. He's like top 10.
What was he? I
think he finished
voting. He finished third in voting that year. His numbers, I will give you his numbers for that season, okay? And you will see he had 105 completions out of 182 attempts, right? 57.7 comp for 2,065 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, right?
And so he had 9 million rushing yards and 40,000 rushing touchdowns.
He only had 682 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. Tyrod Taylor had 2 seasons where he matched or bettered that in that year. Tyrod Taylor in his career, 57.2% completion percentage, 7,017 yards, 44 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, 2,196 rushing yards, 23 touchdowns. Had more passing yards in his final 2 seasons at VT than Vic had that season, which was his best season. Had one more season where he rushed for over 700 rushing yards. That was more than Vic ever had.
Vic only played 2 years, yeah?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's also the reason why. But, I mean, really, Tyrod played sparingly in 2007, which was his first year. 2008, it was kind of weird. He both did and didn't play. He was kind of like a rotation. Vic, 56 completion percentage, 3,299 passing yards, 21 touchdowns for his career, 11 interceptions, 1,299 rushing yards, and 17 touchdowns. So, yeah, Vic – and, I mean, Tyrod had better accuracy. Vic was known for having a cannon of an arm, and you see that both in how he played in the NFL and stuff. But I think Tyrod, despite what Vic did and how he changed the game, I think just Tyrod's better overall, in my opinion.
I'll give you that.
RB1, Kevin Jones.
Yes,
He's the only number 1 overall recruit Virginia Tech has ever gotten. They got him over Penn State. 3,476 rushing yards, 35 touchdowns. His best year was his junior year. We had 1,647 yards and 21 touchdowns. I don't think he's actually the all-time leader in rushing yards, and he's not the leader in touchdowns. That's actually my second guy. But had a pretty good impact. Him and the next guy paired together for a year or two at VT and was a solid duo. RB2 is Lee Suggs, 2,767 rushing yards, 53 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, and 1 punt and 1 return touchdown for 57 career touchdowns. Apparently, and I think this record applies to non-quarterbacks, he set and still holds the NCAA FBS record for most games scoring a touchdown in a single season, which is 14 in 2002. And he holds the record for most consecutive games scoring a touchdown with 27. He holds the school record for touchdowns in a senior season with 27 2000 and has 18 more rushing touchdowns than Kevin Jones. So, but I think overall Jones still had a bigger of an impact. Wide receiver 1, I'm going with Isaiah Ford. He's second in career in receiving yards. He probably would still be first if he had decided to not go to the NFL after 2016 because Cam Phillips then passed him that year in 2017. But he had 210 catches for 2,967 yards for 14.1 yards per catch average. And he's the career leader in receiving touchdowns with 24. And then I went for wide receiver 2, I decided to go with big play Trey Turner. He's 5th in career receiving yards, only 134 catches for 2,292 yards, which is a 17.1 yards per catch, 14 touchdowns, and he's like 2nd of all wide receivers in rushing yards as well, using all the jet sweeps and stuff. 456 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. So 2 guys that are much more recent. I probably could have gone with Antonio Freeman and stuff like that, or Eddie Royal, but their numbers didn't stack up as well. Tight end 1, this guy is pretty much like the Ed Dixon of Virginia Tech. He was more of a big wide receiver that didn't block very well. It was Bucky Hodges, 333 catches, 1,747 yards, 13.1 yards per catch, 20 touchdowns. And then I actually have, for tight end 2, I have Logan Thomas, because he was originally recruited as a tight end at Virginia Tech, and then they moved him to quarterback. And we've seen in the past couple of years, when he's not injured, that he's a pretty above average to good tight end for Washington. He's a good tight end for Washington. He's I think he's at around he's over 30 now, but like if he had moved from tight end to quarterback or if he had moved from quarterback to tight end a lot sooner in the NFL, I think he would have been up there. I think he's still probably like a top 10 tight end. Like I would be willing to take him. I've had him on my team on a few teams the past couple of years. For offensive line, I have a guy you probably don't know. You've probably never heard of, Jim Pine. He played from 1990 to 1993. He's the first unanimous All-American in Virginia Tech history in 93. He was a finalist for the Lombardi and Outland trophies that year. And he's one of only 4 players to have their number retired by VT. One of two of the guys whose names are also retired are in this list. So while other players like Vic and Frank Beamer have had their number retired, you can actually still wear their numbers and stuff, because you'll still see players wearing 7 and 25. That's my list. What do you guys think?
I like it. The only one I say was kind of a Logan Thomas, because he was a quarterback, but we'll let you get away with that.
I mean, there was really no one else. Unfortunately, I was like straight up. I couldn't find or think anyone else. So yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think?
I like it. Issues?
I think it's good. I don't know too many of your guys. Didn't know too many. I was glad you had as I slur my words. I'm not drunk, I swear. I'm glad that you had Kevin Jones on there. It was Kevin Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm glad you had Kevin Jones on there, because I don't know why I had like a liking for him when he played for the Jets for some reason. Like I just had like
I played for them, yeah.
I had some sort of weird liking for him. I think it was because I had a rookie card and he was supposed to be like a highly anticipated running back in the league, because he did play so well at VT. Mm-hmm. And I had his rookie card, and I always thought it was so cool. But yeah. I will say it came down. I was thinking Suggs. I was thinking it could have been Suggs or David Wilson. I'm a little bit surprised about your boy Khloe Herbert wasn't on the list.
Well, he was only there for a year, and obviously that was the COVID year where he kind of exploded. Where they used, because that was also when they had Christian Darrisaw, who was a first round pick that year. Mm-hmm. After that year by the Vikings, so it was like a zone blocking scheme that Khloe Herbert was really good for, and I think he set the record for yards per game for a running back. Because I was only like it was VT, it was a shortened season, so it was like only 10 games or so, or maybe it would have been a normal 12. I can't remember, but I think that's only because he really was only there for 1 year. And that's also kind of why I didn't choose David Wilson, because even though Wilson was incredible and was a first-round pick, he only really had the one good year before he got drafted. But it was such a good year that he was ACC Player of the Year. It was like 1,700 yards, 20-something touchdowns. He also was a punt and kick. He was like a kick returner as well that season. So he had like a ton of scrimmage yards that year for VT. Okay, defensive line. He was probably the most accomplished player in Virginia Tech history until the next guy I'll be talking about. And he's also the all-time NFL sacks leader, Bruce Smith. 71 tackles for loss, 46 career sacks. Led the entire NCAA with 22 in 1983. He was the number 1 overall pick in 1985. He was named a consensus first-team All-American in 1983, and he won the Outland Trophy in 1983 as well. Bruce is just crazy, and he goes back to games regularly. I got to meet him one time. He was at a VT game when I was working the sidelines for a sports club when I was a student there, and got to shake his hand. I don't remember if I got a photo with him, unfortunately, or not, but so that was pretty cool. Linebacker. This is the guy I mentioned who technically I think he was a defensive end, but he played linebacker in college and in the NFL, and he was just too good to not be mentioned here. He's kind of like TJ Watt in that Watt is technically considered like a right outside linebacker. It's like Corey Moore. He was the other half of the 1999 team, along with Mike Vick. Corey Moore probably was actually the best player in all of college football in 1999. He won the Lombardi and Nagurski trophies that year, was the unanimous first-team All-American. He won the Big East Defensive Player of the Year award in 98 and 99, and 99 was unanimous, which was the first time ever, at least for the Big East. He set the Big East sack record with 17 in 1999, and he had 31 sacks in his final 2 years. He probably is the most accomplished individual player in Virginia Tech history in terms of accolades. He was an absolute beast, and he's really the second half of that team, like I mentioned. So it's crazy what he did. Cornerback 1. So VT, VT fans like to say we're DBU. We're one of the teams that you could consider DBU, I guess, as a potential option. So there's quite a few corners. I'll say the guys that didn't make it is Kyle Fuller, Kendall Fuller, and Caleb Farley. Those were the 3 that I was thinking of, but they didn't make it. So cornerback 1, his name is Jimmy Williams. 2005, he was a unanimous All-American, and he won the Jack Tatum Trophy, which is given to the best collegiate defensive back in 2005. I believe he was a first-round pick, either first or second-round pick in 2005. He had 9 career interceptions. And then CB2, guy who might be a Hall of Famer in the NFL, D'Angelo Hall, 190 tackles, 20. I accidentally have here 200 passes defended, which is wrong. That's 20 passes defended. 2 interceptions. All right, 2 interceptions, 8 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown, 7 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown as well. So he scored actually a touchdown on offense, defense, and he also had 5 punt return touchdowns in his career. He was a second-team All-American in 2003 and was a Thorpe Award winner. So safety. Number 1 is Frank Lauria. Played from 1965 to 1967. He was teammates with Frank Beamer, who was a cornerback for Virginia Tech at that time. He was an All-American selection in his junior and senior years. He's one of the people that I mentioned earlier. He's one of the 4 people that have their numbers fully retired by Virginia Tech. The other is Bruce Smith, and another is his name's Carroll Dale, who's a cornerback as well. And unfortunately, the most noteworthy thing, other than what he did, is he died in the Marshall football plane crash in 1970 as a defensive backs coach for the team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's sad to see right here. And then safety 2, Cam Chancellor. Pretty obvious. He was only like a 5th-round pick. But 208 tackles, 6 interceptions, and then also he was the cause of about 1,000 CTE diagnoses over the years. So,
yep.
So crazy good. And just a beast. I did wonder if it could have put like Terrell Edmonds because he was kind of a rover, but I don't think his legacy is that well established compared to Cam's. Kicker, Shane Graham, 69 of 94 for 73.4% efficiency. But he also made the most famous and important kick in VT history when he kicked the game-winning field goal in the Miracle in Morgantown that kept Virginia Tech's perfect season alive in 1999, So he came through in pressure situations, and he was really good in the NFL after that. Punter, I went with AJ Hughes. He punted during the last couple years of the Frank Beamer. I think it was 2012 to 2015. So the last 4 years of the Frank Beamer era. So the numbers, when you hear them, make sense because the offense sucked. He had 310 punts for 12,962 yards for an average of 41.8 yards per punt. So, yeah, he was punting a lot and doing pretty well with the numbers there. And then returner, there were quite a few options. There was Eddie Royal, that's who I chose. Eddie Royal is my choice, but there was Greg Stroman, David Wilson as well. But I went with Eddie Royal, 1,296 punt return yards, 3 touchdowns, average of 14.7 yards per return, 1,386 kick return yards, and average of 23.5 yards per return. Both of those combined more than he had offensively in offensive scrimmage yards, both receiving and rushing for his career at VT. So that's why I kind of chose him there. Quick run through again. Bruce Smith for defensive line, Corey Moore for linebacker, Jimmy Williams for CB1, D'Angelo Hall for CB2, Frank Lauria for safety 1, Cam Chancellor safety 2, Shane Graham for kicker, AJ Hughes for punter, and Eddie Royal for returner.